All right, what's up, guys? Let me close out a couple things here. Just like that perfect cue, the dog is complaining. So they always know when it's time for us to host a meeting to make the most noise possible. But anyways, let's dive into it, guys. Here we go. Let me see. Pin myself here. How are we feeling, guys? Let me know in the chat. Let me know. I want to hear the energy. It's Monday. The markets are fresh. Let's dive into it, guys. All right. So, as you all know, today we're going to be talking about being aware of what a scarcity trading mindset looks like. There's a lot of key examples, and I'm not going to just talk about the problems and examples. I'm going to give you solutions. We're going to dive into the roots of some of these things. But before I dive into everything, I always have to get a good pulse of the energy between the team. And remember, guys, this is open to the public, so feel free to share this with traders at all levels. And doesn't matter, who you pertain to, who you learn from. This should be applicable to absolutely everybody. But what's up, man? What's up, guys? I see we have Charlotte in the house. We got the chats going. It's vibing. All right. Awesome. Amazing. So what I did was earlier today, I know I didn't give you guys a big heads up, so you guys are kind of scrambling to hop on today, but you guys know the vibes. It's every Monday, 9 p.m. Eastern, we're here. And it wasn't until later in the day today that I kind of figured out what I wanted to talk about. And so I asked you guys, some of the things that you were experiencing. I posted in the Telegram, what is it that you guys want to learn from? What are some of the things that you feel like you might need some perspective about? And when I asked, I got a lot of really good responses. Some of the things that people mentioned were, let me scroll, being picky, right? Being picky with taking trades versus allowing them to just run off. I think that was Caesar. People were asking about risk management. That's always a hot topic. Another really good one that I think I'll probably talk about next week is the best advice for discipline in the market when you're around other traders. So in a social setting, how do you kind of choose your own setups versus somebody else's? Maybe they're even more experienced. So I got a question about that as well. And I think we'll dive into that more so next week. And then some of you know a little bit about my story. And there was a season where I was on the charts. I was studying, good 12 to 15 hours a day. And so some of you were asking about that. We'll probably get into that a little bit later on as well. And so from there, and then some of you wanted me to go over FOMO, some fears, and a couple other things. But there's a lot of good topics, right? There's a lot going on, and I will dive into these things here in the future. So more than anything, what I want to talk about today, though, is the scarcity mindset. And this really does come from something that Caesar asked about, and it's okay. What is the difference between being selective and kind of taking more trades? And so today we are going to talk about quality over quantity, but you do also need quantity before you figure out what quality even is. And so I guess I'll start right there. You do want to get to the point where what is quality, right? You hear this all the time, and it's quality over quantity. And so you don't get paid here, like you don't pay yourself through the markets based on how many trades you take. Trading more doesn't necessarily mean you're going to make more money. But in order for you to really figure out what quality even is, you do have to experience a lot of trades. Like you have to take a ton of trades. And so in your learning phase, and guys, this is interactive. So if you have questions, if you want me to, give you another angle, another perspective, just let me know in the chat. But a lot of times we get into this, right? Everyone here got into trading because we wanted more money, we wanted more time, we wanted to do whatever we want with our life, right? We have dreams, you got vision boards, you have family, a million different reasons. And so also a lot of times, especially if you're in a business as well, how you hear about trading can be really different. I got into trading and I had really good influence as soon as I got plugged into trading. Some of you, maybe it wasn't the same way. Some of you, I've heard stories of people getting scammed. You're sending money to people and they're promising you, the world. And so a lot of us come into this game and the beginning might be a little bit rough, but the most frequent thing that happens is we're chasing money to start. Right? But you don't even know anything really about trading, but you do know it can pay you. And so in the beginning, the first phase oftentimes is we're trading for money right off the rip, but we don't even know what to do. You don't understand technical strategy. You don't have any sort of emotional awareness. You don't know what's good or what's bad. And so the first phase in trading is definitely not making money. Like income through trading should be very, very much in the back of your mind in the beginning. I'd say at least your first 3 months, 6 months, maybe even longer, just depends on your process. There's nothing like at all. You should expect $0. You shouldn't even have money at risk in the beginning. And I'm going to get into this, but the reason I say that is, guys, if you don't even know what works, what doesn't work for you, if you're not even familiar with some of your tendencies, what are the most common mistakes that you make, but you already have money on the line, your focus is on making money instead of making changes, right? The focus is on, getting paid out instead of figuring yourself out. So if right now you don't actually really understand your strategy yet, if you're pretty new to this, throw away the idea of having this make you money to start. No, it's not like you couldn't. You could, but you're not going to do it with any sort of longevity. Not yet. So, and here's why we do it: just because we don't know any better. That's it. Like, you just don't know any better. Someone might have just said, yeah, this is make money from your phone, all the good stuff, and they're not wrong, but there's a sequence. There's things that need to happen before we get there. And so reevaluate some of your expectations to start. But I do want to dive into the topic because there's a lot that we're going to talk about. So scarcity mindset, what does that even mean? This really derives from belief that either you're not enough, that there's not going to be enough money going around, that there's not enough opportunity, or that it's leaving without you, that you missed the train. And some of these things are impulsive thoughts. They might not be long-term thoughts, but they are impulsive. Another method of scarcity comes from time. We think that there's not going to be another time for you to do it, or you need to accomplish or be in the market or make a certain amount of money within some sort of time period. And a lot of these things, they stem from a lot of different places. And so this isn't going to be a surface level call. Like, we're going to get into it. We're going to dive into the psychological aspects. We're going to dive into the roots, the childhood types of things. So because we have to understand I'm not here to talk about just problems. We have to get to the basis of this. We have to understand, could it be that there are toxic roots, and so everything that comes from that doesn't serve you either? And so I'll give you an example. And actually I want you guys to share it, because you might have specific examples or just thoughts about this. But where do you think a scarcity mindset comes from? Why do we have this? Where do these conditioned thoughts come from? And it's funny because for some of us, our relationship with money might have been basically non-existent. So for some of us, maybe there's no exposure. to money, to investing, to opportunity. So it might just be a lack of awareness, a lack of information. It just might be ignorance. Now, on the other side, there are situations where scarcity comes from the fact that you simply just didn't have it growing up. So when you're the most impressionable, through your childhood, teenage years, maybe even up until now, there was this, I just don't, and I've never experienced having money or having, always fighting to have food. It's a constant uphill battle to, just have food or shelter or income. So what we assume from the world is that there's either not enough to go around or it's just not in your cards. And all of these things may sound extreme, but it all has a ripple effect. It all seeps in. So your water, right, your environment might just be toxic. And so it seeps, so your roots are soaking in all of these thoughts, behaviors, things that you might have seen. So then nothing might have been told to you, but here, I'll give you guys another example. Social media, that's a huge one, right? But I'll give you an example of, this one hit different for me for some reason. But did anyone ever have your parents or people around you tell you to finish your food? Like, yo, you got to make sure you got to eat everything on that plate, right? Yeah, makes sense. I heard that all my life. I never questioned that. I was like, oh, you're right. I don't want to be wasteful. Of course. But I didn't realize that there was another angle to this. And I think I learned this a couple of years ago. But I remember I would be full. Like, I had what I needed to nourish myself to, like, I had enough. But it was like, yo, you better finish that. And it was all the time. And I get where my parents are coming from, because they worked hard. They worked hard for the food, right? They worked hard to get the money to make sure that you're eating. And that didn't come easy for them. But what it was teaching me was that there might not be enough next time. What subconsciously I was learning was I wasn't listening to myself. And when I was okay, I needed to make sure that I was almost like hoarding that moment. So all of a sudden, it was like I wasn't listening to my intuition, to my body. It was more so like, let's not even just the wastefulness of food, but they worked hard, so you better eat it. But you weren't in that position. And I can dive into that topic some more, but I want you guys to just consider what that does to someone over your whole life. That might even change your relationship with food too. And so we can go in different angles. So for example, guys, and this is what this causes, because I want to connect the dots for you for a second. Maybe there were moments in your life where things were taken away from you. Right? If right now, if you're someone who chases trades, if you're someone that has kind of impulsive behavior when you're trading, those can be, maybe you struggle to hold a trade when it's in profit. Think about it. Are you okay? Like, for example, could you be in drawdown? And obviously it's not great, but you can spend a good amount of time in drawdown. But the moment you're in profit, it's actually pretty hard for you to stay and let a trade run the way it's supposed to, the way it's designed to. You find yourself like, let me make sure, let me get out of this. Let me just lock something in. Okay. How are situations where you feel like one trade is so important? Like, this one trade carries so much weight in the moment, at least, right? It's like, this is the one that's going to solve all of my problems, or I need to make sure that this goes the way that it's supposed to. Or for example, maybe you're actually overcautious with a demo account. Like, you've been trading demo for a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. Like, it's hard for you to make that leap of faith, where you might experience pain, where you might experience a little bit of a loss. All right, I'm just giving you guys some concepts on when you may have scarcity mindset. For example, situations where you have that fear of missing out. This one's really common, where there's other people in your trading circle that either, they're making money, or, maybe they're practicing and they're in the blue, and you're like, man, I'm missing out. Like, this always happens to me. These are examples. If you find yourself with these thoughts, I'm just letting you know, like, for some of you just might not know, like, do I have a scarcity mindset? Like, do I think like this, or maybe not? Or maybe you have a warped perception of time. A warped perception of time. So what I mean by this is you kind of feel like it needs to happen to you now. Like, you need to get the winning trades money now. Because if it doesn't happen soon, then it's probably just not going to happen at all. So if you have any of these thoughts, if these are things that are kind of just running through your head, you might have a mindset that isn't conducive to your growth. So you actually might have your strategy down. You might understand really well how the markets move, but you're not even allowing yourself to be successful. And that's why I really wanted to tackle this subject on today, was because oftentimes, especially if you put the work in, like if you're, documenting your trades, you're on live sessions all the time, you're plugging into the live streams, and you're watching people that have done it for years do it, and you feel like, I can see the market the same way. I feel like I'm so close. A lot of times that bridge, like that bridge that you need to create, it needs to just be rebuilt. So it's not that you need to find something new. It's just that you need to rebuild what's been destroyed, which is the way you perceive the abundance in this world. Because we're born free. That's just a fact. We're born free. We're born absolutely abundant. Right? We're all born with imagination. So immediately infinite. Right? There's the resources in this world are virtually infinite. If you think about money, guys, money isn't even real. It's just printed. It's just an idea. So there's not even a limit to it. There's a limit to Bitcoin, but to money, right? Money is just a concept. Money is just an exchange of value. That's it. There's not even a limit to it. So if it's infinite, basically, then why wouldn't we be able to have it? So we're taught, right? We're taught to see limitations on money, on whether we can accomplish what we want to accomplish. We're taught all of these behaviors. Just like, for example, is anybody here afraid of swimming? Let me know in the chat if you're afraid of swimming or the water, right? Maybe not afraid of swimming, but you're afraid of the water, the ocean, etc. So what's crazy is we're all born being able to swim. Do you guys know that? Like, we're literally all born able to swim. But what happens is, as babies, as children, as toddlers, we learn to fear the water. It's taught to us by other people's fears. And that same thing happens with so much. The key things being what you can accomplish, how much money can be made, and what's your right, like what you deserve in this life. So imagine that you're born knowing how to do these things. So shark monkeys. And so what I want to get at is, we have to understand, you have to create a baseline and know, okay, you know what, the first step, because I'm here to give you a solution, right? So we need to understand money as a whole, and it's infinite. Think about it like this. If the US, if the company, right, because the United States of America is a company, it's a country, but it's a company too. And if this company is in trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars of debt, I think you're going to be okay. You know what I mean? Like, I think you're going to be fine. And so you might even think, well, okay, where am I going to get the money from? Wherever it is right now. The famous words of Bob Proctor. Oh, where am I going to get this money? Well, literally everywhere it is right now, because money is exchanged. This is what we do in the markets too. There's trillions of dollars that are circulating every single day in these markets. And there's a variety of markets. So they're literally up for grabs. So it's just for us to grab it. Because you know what the craziest thing is? It's not even crazy. It's the truth. We don't even make money. None of us make money. We don't. We take it. Only people who create money, Federal Reserve. We just take it. And we receive it. We take it based on our skill sets, based on our value, based on how we participate in markets. So whether if you're in sales, it's how you participate in a consumer market. For us as traders, how we participate in financial markets. And you can just, in every single lane, it's different. So the money is like, it's literally everywhere. Think about it. Does that make more sense? Like, if people here who maybe had a different perception of money, are you like, I guess he's right. Like, why wouldn't I be able to just participate in this exchange? So then now what do you need to do? You position yourself to be either someone that has what somebody else wants, or in this case, right, we're someone who understands the flow of the markets and we exchange our positions. That's all we're doing. All right. You pay yourself through this market based on your discipline. It's based on your discipline, based on your understanding, right? Because in the markets, wealth is a transfer from the inpatient to the patient. So we understand that. Now, what I want to talk about is the following. So in order for us to be able to trade, without impulsive behaviors, without almost being fearful of participating, again, we have to rewire a lot of different things. So for example, let's say, why is it that we kind of feel like we need to hit a home run with every trade? So this could come from the lack of opportunities, right? So the seeming lack of opportunities that we grew up with. So you might have even been in an environment where there were a lot of opportunities, but you just didn't know how to see them. And so we may have grown up thinking there's only a certain way of becoming successful, right? The definition of success, the definition of opportunity was created for you, and then you just accepted it and moved along with it. So for example, the majority of the world, the number one opportunity we're seeking is employment, right? Employment based on the degrees that we have. That's kind of the number one thing. But that was only because that's all that we knew, right? That was a narrative that was pushed. That was the only thing that was really put in front of our mindset, right? That was like the only thing we could perceive, really. You go to school to get good grades, to go to a good school, to go to a good college, to then get a good job. So we weren't really taught to be curious, to find opportunities. That's not something that we're taught. That you can create your circumstance. So you're not in a circumstance, but you create your circumstance. And so understanding these things, the reality is when we're in the markets, it's not that there's one circumstance and you just have to make sure there's like a situation. You have to make sure you're positioned properly once. No. There's a specific, right? There's a specific opportunity that we're looking for. So everyone here, you have a specific approach to the market. And depending on what your strategy is and how you approach the market, it might happen every day. It might happen every week. It might happen every month. But one, you know your strategy, and two, you have to understand that it's going to happen again and again and again. Why? Because it's been happening over and over and over and over and over again. Maybe this will make you feel better, but I've been trading for over 8 years, and basically every single trading day, there's an opportunity. So why wouldn't you get one? Why is today's trade so important? Why is it that if the market left without you, why do you have to go chase it? If you already know, there's a pretty good chance tomorrow you're going to take another, there's going to be another chance. So why is today's that important? Where does that come from? Were things taken away from you in the past, maybe in unexpected ways? I know I'm about to sound like a psychologist, but do you feel like it's just never going to come back? Did someone leave you? I know it sounds crazy, but I've done this kind of work with a lot of people, and sometimes it literally comes back to abandonment issues. But we have to come to terms with these things. And you have to understand that these are completely separate ideas. So if we go back to it, if you experience moments where you didn't have food, you didn't have money, you didn't have shelter, same things that trigger the scarcity mindset. So we have to understand the opportunities here are endless, and you have to accept it. It's not kind of like, oh, cool, we'll find out. It's like, no, this is just the truth. These are the facts. The facts are that opportunities are endless. Markets have been around for hundreds and hundreds of years. Exchange of value, exchange of service, exchange of goods have been around for hundreds and thousands of years. Right now, we're trading online, digital. That could be something different in the future, but the ideas are going to remain the same. So it's not going to just go away. Plus, it's a skill that you have, so no one can take that from you either. Y'all follow me? We good? All right, I'm just making sure we're on the we're connecting here. So scarcity, most of it comes from either money or time, right? These are the things that we're kind of feel like there's not enough of. Usually money, time. What else? You guys let me know in the chat. What else do you feel like there's usually not enough of? Money and time. That's like the normally what I hear, or opportunities. So let's think about time then. What is time? Why is time important? And I'll give you guys some perspective that helped me a lot with just, I guess, detaching from when I wanted to have results. And one thing that I had, I wanted to get rich quick, right? Everybody does. If you think you don't, you're lying to yourself. At one point somewhere, we want, like, who wouldn't? If you have the option between making money right now and making money way later, we're going to want to make money right now. like, of course, it just is logical. Okay. But why do we feel like we need to make, that's what we would want, but do we feel like we need to have it now? Why is that the case? And a lot of times we almost feel like if it doesn't happen now, it will just never happen. And it comes from expectations, right? It comes from expectations that you created, that we created ourselves on when things are supposed to happen. Now, then again, this is just, we're going like in a rabbit hole, but then you ask yourself, where does this expectation come from? Did I create this expectation, or did something in someone in my environment create this expectation and I'm actually just following it? So for example, a lot of the expectations that we have, they would just come from social expectations. Someone else had an expectation for themselves. Someone has an expectation for themselves, and maybe it's for you. Who's to say that they're right? I don't know. They could be, maybe they're not. Is there a right or wrong? So all of a sudden, we're here thinking about, I need to make sure that I'm profitable this month, this quarter, this year. But why? Why is there an expiration date for success? At least your own version of success, or your own version of accomplishment, or your own version of a profitability. Why? Where does that pressure come from? Why is there like like an hourglass with the sand, just like, well, why? And that's for you to answer, because it's going to be different for everybody. Friends, family, parents. It's just something that you believe about yourself. But we have to understand that time is just a measurement tool. That's it. There's no right or wrong way. Someone at some point invented this idea. For example, right? At some point, someone just created this idea that you're supposed to graduate college in 4 years. Why? Because someone just created a structure for that to happen in 4 years. Remember, someone just invented that. And then everyone accepted it. Everyone's like, 4 years? Everyone's cool with that? Yeah. All right, perfect. 4 years it is. Remember, this is just, everyone just kind of accepted it. It's not that it's the law. It's not that this is how and when you become successful. That's just what people were like, all right, yeah, that sounds good. That's it. That's literally it. So, okay. No, this dog is wild and I'm here. So now what? Same thing goes with this. Then because at 22, 23, you're supposed to now be entering this next phase in life. Now all of a sudden what happens? So now you're judging yourself based off of expectations that were invented by who knows who. Isn't that crazy? So much of the expectations in society stem from someone you don't even know. They're not even alive anymore. That's kind of mind-blowing, right? That the expectations in our lives might be dictated by someone who doesn't even exist anymore. Wild. So why should you have to be making, who decided that $50,000 is a lot of money? Who decided that $100,000 is a lot of money? Who defines success? So you have to. But the first thing we have to understand is money and time. So we often think about, all right, I need to make sure that I'm hitting my trading goals by today, by this week, by this month. Why? Now, this might even sound redundant, but we invent time constraints just because. And sometimes that's useful and sometimes it's not. So be cautious on what you're giving a time constraint. Now, I give myself time constraints around things that are in my controllables. So, for example, I know, right? I control whether I go to the gym, whether I go for a run every day or not. That's in my power. I have absolute control. Whether I burn X amount of calories, whether I eat X amount of food, I have control of it. Nothing else and nobody else. I have 100% responsibility over that. Okay, cool. But I have no control over how the market moves today. I have no, trust me, I am a nobody in this market. I have no control. So you can have control over how long you study for today. You can have control over how much back testing you do. You can have control over, you do have control over how many trades you take today. Sure. You don't have control over it, the setup showing up, that you don't know. So we have to think, what do I control? And do I want to put a time constraint on that? So those are the things that at least I have Okay, so for example, let's say I have control over if I was going to do this training or not. That's in my control for the most part, right? So we understand now that time is just a construct, right? We use it to it's a tool for us. That's all. That's all it is. But you have to just accept that. From there, we want to reevaluate our expectations, like I talked about. So many of the expectations that we're living in right now, we don't even know where they came from. Like, we don't. At one point, my expectation was if I can make $100,000 in a year, I made it. That was actually a limiting expectation, which at one point I thought was basically unreachable. Isn't that funny? Interesting, right? How perception can change. Another expectation can be, for example, let's see here. Actually, you guys let me know. What are some common expectations in this world that you're supposed to be? All right. Oh, here's another one. Oh, this one's hilarious to me. They told you that you're supposed to have, I had a funny conversation with our team over the weekend, but they told you you're supposed to have the American dream. Oh, yeah. The American dream. That one's crazy, man. Be married, have some kids, get a house and a car. Oh man. By a certain age. By a certain age too. That's a good one. They told everybody that having a home, that's the best thing, the smartest thing you could do is own your own home. It's an asset. Is it? Is having a house automatically an asset? Definitely not. Definitely not. Most people, their house is not an asset, it's a liability. But everyone was just dialed in on these expectations. By a certain age, you're supposed to be doing these things, having these things. Otherwise, you have failed. So we have all of these social expectations. We have all these constructs that are then putting pressure on trading. So everything comes back because now you have pressure. Like, yo, if I don't learn this skill, if I'm not profitable by 20 in 2 years of doing this, in 4 years of doing this, then I failed. But why? I don't know. And so, an idea, an example that I give is, well, imagine that somebody told you like, yeah, the average trader becomes successful in 8 years. And then imagine everybody believed that. And all of us are like, yeah, it's an 8-year journey. It's an 8-year journey. How do you think you would feel right now about your journey? If from day one, and then everyone also is on the same page, where it's like, yeah, it's about an 8-year journey. About year 8, you have a pretty good amount of capital you're working with. You have the skills, you've gone through the motions, you have a lot of the reps in. And at that point, you're going to be doing pretty well. So would you feel a lot better about being in month 6 and feeling a little lost? Would you feel a lot better about being in year 4 and still not really, having the consistency or just making certain mistakes? How would you feel? Like, let's be real. I know there's a lot of people right here right now. Situation changes, right? You'd be way more patient. Now, I heard the Hermosi said, Alex specifically, was like, people overestimate the short term and underestimate the long term. 100%. That applies to trading 1,000%. 1,000%. A lot of people just give up too early. So the scarcity comes from the time. Like, you're gonna live, most people, right? I forgot the average age to average male lives to like 74 years old or something like that, 75, like average woman 76. They live a little bit longer. So you already know you have a life to like the 70s. All right. If you're on this call, there's a good chance the average age of this call is somewhere in their mid-20s, if not early 20s. Here's why, too. Because the older you get, the less likely you are of doing new things. That's a fact. So what I want you guys to understand is you want to just reevaluate your expectations and your beliefs as a trader. And where does that scarcity come from? Why does $100,000 seem like a lot of money? Why does 4 years, 8 years, why do 10 years feel like a lot of time? It's going to happen regardless. There's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do. The time is going to go by. Might as well do the same thing for a long enough time. Mike, how did you get so good at finding setups? How did this, you know why? Because I've been doing the same thing for almost 9 years, every single day. That's why. I'm not special. I've just done it much. Like if you go and try to find people that have been trading for over 8 years. Very, 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 very few people. And it's not because I'm that good. It's just because I decided to do the same thing. That's it. Because I understood time. So one of my best skill sets is just consistency. Maybe delusion. Maybe also just being delusional. But it's just being consistent. So cool. We understand we have to develop a powerful perception of money, understanding that money is infinite. It's just abundance. We're born abundant. We understand that opportunities are endless. Time is just a construct, and we have to reevaluate our expectations. And so once we find the source of the limitations to each one of these things, then we have to learn to detach. So if all your life, right, all you heard was about the bills and about there's not enough money and all of these different things, look, that's the situation, that's the lifestyle that those people accepted. Doesn't have to be yours. Doesn't have to be yours. There's a lot of thoughts, there's a lot of outlooks that you've heard, but they weren't yours. This was such a mind fuck for me, was realizing that so many of the beliefs and the thoughts that I had, they were never mine to begin with. I had heard it somewhere, I had seen it something, it might have been subconscious, but I just kind of ran with it because it was the first time I was exposed to a certain way of thinking. So you ever think about, and I know this has happened to all of us, if you have no opinion, but you hear somebody else's, have you ever just kind of taken that opinion? Like, yeah, they're probably right. I trust them, right? So imagine hearing your parents talk about money, opportunity, how they view time and what's possible. Those are the people you admire the most. So there's a good chance. Think about how many of the things that you probably believe right now, you just casually accepted at one point in time. And you just kind of, political views, ooh, that's a good one. Religious perspectives, even your favorite foods, favorite colors, basic things. You maybe didn't have an idea, you didn't have an opinion, so you just took somebody else's and you forgot you took theirs, and 15 years later, here we are. So sports teams, exactly. And now that's a really good example. Your favorite team is probably your dad's favorite team, your mom's, right, favorite, whatever. It's innocent. That's an innocent thing. Like, oh yeah, of course, I love the Bulls. I'm from Chicago. Think about it like that. I love the Bulls. I don't actually like care that much, but by nature, if someone were to ask me, "Oh, what's your favorite basketball team?" Oh, well, I grew up in Chicago, so I have just naturally inclination to the bulls. Okay. And name any other things. Pizza, deep dish pizza all day, every day. Why? I got exposed to deep dish pizza when I was younger. And it's amazing. If I grew up in New York, what would I be saying? It'd be different, right? So the same thing then goes to our cultures. So there's a lot of just like derived beliefs, guys. And all of these things are what create a scarcity mindset. And so what I told you guys right now is you just have to rewire these things, because I can't figure out what it is for you, but I can at least position you to do that for yourself. Because with all these things, then you'll know, okay, you know what? I'm chasing trades because I feel like I always felt when I was younger that I was just chasing life. Right? I'm chasing trades because I just didn't actually end up. Why do you chase trades? Because you feel like something left without you, right? That's how we feel like we're chasing trades. So it's like, oh, did this leave without me? Why do we feel like something has left without you? Were you owed something to begin with? So do you feel like life owes you something? So now you come from a victim mindset. Why do you come from a victim mindset? Maybe you felt like you were just dealt the wrong hands to start. Whether it's this, maybe it was just how your life played out, right? Born without certain people in your life. Maybe you were born with a sickness. Maybe you were born, whatever it was. So like, I know you're like, man, it's not that serious. Trust, it is. So all these little things, like for example, for me, my hardest thing was being wrong. It was so hard for me to be wrong as a trader. So difficult. Which is terrible because you're wrong a lot. As a trader, you're wrong all the time. But the reason I had such a hard time with this was because of the expectations that were set upon me as a young person. Since I was 5 years old, I'm supposed to be this, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like I was supposed to be skipping grades since I was young. So super high expectations. Always. And so now you're living up to a golden child expectation. And so you're supposed to be right all the time. When people expect for you to get good grades all the time, you tend to live up to it, right? You want to make sure you're living up to it. But now you're introduced to trading, where trading isn't about being right. It's about making the right decisions. It's about knowing how to lose and knowing how to win. So I had to completely shift the way that I looked at my own, identity of like, oh, I got to be right. That's not how this works. The wealthiest investor on the planet has a 35% win rate. I don't got to be right, but I had to rewire myself. I had to accept that fact. And it's not just like, oh, cool, I accept it. It's like, all right, you gotta work at it. So anyways, guys, I won't take up more of your time. I'll leave you all at this. So I hope you realize, like, if you feel like you're not enough, there's not enough money, there's not enough time, it comes from somewhere. It comes from somewhere. So guys, much love to you all. And we'll go ahead and we're going to approach the markets again tomorrow morning. You already know we're trading live every day, but we're doing it with no expectations. The only expectation we have is to be disciplined toward what we know will serve us best over a long period of time. So guys, remember to stay disciplined, because this